What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here. Today we're going to be talking about my experience cold plunging. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you're just somebody that watches me on YouTube, then you probably don't know that I took up doing cold plunges maybe about a month and a half ago, maybe even 2 months ago now. The cold plunge that I've been using is the Recoverfun cold plunge. It is the most affordable cold plunge. I see a lot of cold plunges out there proclaiming to be the cheapest or most inexpensive cold plunge system. This one is actually the cheapest one that you can buy, readily available, that comes with everything that you need in the kit. So it comes with the cold plunge, actual like the bath unit, which is basically an insulated vinyl unit that has a inflatable rim, and then it's got little plastic stakes that you use to prop the unit up. And then on that there are some quick connects already there so that you can connect it to the included chiller if you wanted to buy the included chiller. You don't actually have to buy the included chiller, but that's probably the main reason you're looking into the Recoverfun, because it comes with everything and it's the cheapest one. I'll get to the price in just 1 second, I promise. So it comes with hoses that you're going to connect into the actual like cold plunge bath thing, and then those hoses are also insulated with quick connects, and then you line those up and connect them in to the chiller, which keeps your water cold. And that is a 1/3 of a horsepower chiller. It's not the strongest one out there, but it does a pretty good job. I personally only got this thing down to 50 degrees. That's as low as I set it. Sometimes it didn't hold at 50 degrees. Sometimes when I would come back to it in the morning, it would show 51, 52, but right around 50 degrees is where it would mainly stay. There's a little water pump that also is included, that is powered. Obviously the chiller is also powered as well. And that's pretty much the whole setup. It comes with a little carrying case if you wanted to take the ice bath or the bath part with you somewhere. And then it comes with like a little handheld pump so that you could pump it up. Obviously it comes with a little inflatable lid, which is basically the same thing as the actual bath unit. It just has a little inflatable rim, and then it's got a nylon top, and then you stick it in there. And then it does come with an insulated top wrap so that you could sling it over, keep things out. Ideally, keep the actual bath a little bit cooler, give it a little bit more insulation. The unit itself is very easy to set up. All you gotta do is put water into it, connect a few hoses, and then you're pretty much good to go. It holds 85 gallons of water, which is about 10 minutes of filling up with a garden hose. It is 29.53 inches tall, and then it is 31.5 inches in diameter. For me, as a 5'9" male, I fit just fine, though I will say that ergonomically, it's not that great. Like, I fit just fine. You stand up, you jump into the thing, and then you kind of squat down, and you never really hit like a real squat. It's kind of like this floating, meditation pose that you hold in there. And that's pretty much it. It's not comfortable, but it's also not supposed to be comfortable. But it's not really uncomfortable in that position too, because obviously you have the buoyancy from the water, kind of keeps you up. So it doesn't require too much effort to stay in that position. Typically my cold plunges would last up to about 6 minutes. I started at 60 degrees, and I worked my way down to about 50 degrees. And when I even was at 60 degrees, I was only in for like 1 or 2 minutes at a time. And I thought that was enough, but I would do that every day. And then eventually I would get down to like 5 minutes, 50 degrees, and I would just chill. Sometimes I even spent like 12 minutes at 50 degrees one time after I did a pretty hard workout. All right, so I probably just rambled on a little bit there, but getting back to the actual value of the unit, it's $997 all in for this unit. So you get a completely functional cold plunge unit, bath, chiller, hoses, connects, everything for $997. Is it the fanciest cold plunge? It is absolutely not. The probably best thing about it is the chiller, which works great. It does take about 8 or 10 hours for it to bring down the temp after you put water in it. And this is coming from like 60, 65 degree hose water. It does pump pretty quickly, and that's one of the gripes that I have about it. And it's probably a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing in that it like gets water in and out of there pretty quickly. And it's a bad thing because the top inlet, because it's a soft shelled, I guess, bath, it will kind of pull it down so that the water coming back through the chiller will, shoot out. So if you don't have your water set to the fill line, it will kind of create like this little fountain, which is, I guess, kind of annoying. It's not that big a deal when you're actually in the unit. But really, that's my only gripe aside from the ergonomics of the unit. Another thing that's actually pretty good about the unit that I didn't really think about until maybe about a month after owning this was that the interior of the Recoverfun bath is blue. And the great thing about it being blue is that you can see how dirty the water can get. So they recommend changing the water every 2 weeks, and you definitely want to get in there and scrub it down with some kind of dish soap or something. That's what I used, and a sponge, because there will be bacteria that grows in there, like algae will grow in there. And the nice thing about having the interior being blue is that you can see that stuff. You can see the water when it's murky, you can see it when it's clean, you can see the dirt and grime and whatever that builds up around the edges, and you can see floaties in there pretty easily. If you had something like the ice barrel that I just set up, which is a great unit, it's a really nicely constructed unit, but it's black, and you won't be able to see the dirt and particulates that are in the water. So that's something to keep in mind when going from something like the Recoverfun that has a light interior, or even if you're looking at the ice barrel and you were deciding between the tan or the black one. In hindsight now, I wish I would have gone with the tan one so that I could see that stuff. So cleaning the Recoverfun is actually pretty easy because of the ability to see the things inside of it. So now talking about my experience actually doing cold plunges. I've been doing it for probably close to 2 months now. And overall, I was a skeptic going into it, and now I actually really like doing cold plunges. But I don't think it's for the same reason that a lot of people will kind of, promote. I like doing it because it makes me feel better, and it generally makes my mood better the times that I do it. Now, those mood boosts don't really last, a week. They don't really have a huge lasting effect on me. Probably last a few hours after I do the cold plunge. But that's why I do it, and that's why I enjoy it. As far as recovery goes, sometimes I feel better. Like after I did Chad, I felt better, but my recovery throughout the week doesn't really feel that different. And then another reason why I think a lot of people really like to do it is because it's one of those things that, not a lot of people want to do. So it's the hard thing, and people find satisfaction out of doing the hard thing that other people can't do. For me personally, that's not really something that I get off on. But if that's you, great. You might like doing cold plunges because of that. For me, that was never a factor. I see it the way that I see it is that the more often that you do the hard thing, then it becomes not really all that hard. But anyways, as far as the actual unit and everything itself, I highly recommend it. It's the best way to get into doing cold plunges, and doing cold plunges is something that I do recommend doing. I would say don't knock it until you try it, because I was one of those people that knocked it and then I tried it and I ended up liking it. And the cold plunge from Recoverfun is probably the easiest way to get into it because you get everything. It's $997. It's not the fanciest unit, but it gets everything done. There's nothing really bad about it. The only thing that I would say is not so great about it is that it's just the construction's not that nice. But if it's just you in your backyard, then it probably doesn't matter. For me, I cared, so that's why I eventually upgraded, and I'll have more on that later. But the actual Recoverfun unit as a cold plunge all by itself for $997 is an absolute bargain compared to, you know, everybody charging like $5 grand, $7 grand, $8 grand for a cold plunge. Yeah, there are much nicer units out there, but if you needed something that worked and did everything for you, then I highly recommend just going with the Recoverfun, and then even just from there, seeing if you liked it, and then I guess from there you could go and upgrade if you really liked it, or if you felt the need to upgrade. But anyways, I'm gonna leave you guys with my thoughts of cold plunging from the actual cold plunge unit. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, so the water is set to 50 degrees. I haven't done a cold plunge in about 4 or 5 days or so. I actually can't remember the last day I came in here. 50 is the lowest that I've gone down to during the time that I've been doing cold plunges, which is about a month now. I went pretty steady for 3 weeks or so, and then kind of fell off a little bit. It's been probably a little bit over a month now. I still think that I've gotten enough, or I get enough cold exposure per week to cover the days that I take off. And I think last week I was just doing like every other day. And then this week I just haven't been, just because it's been really windy, and I just don't like being out here when it's windy. But yeah, here we are. And you know, my experience with cold exposure has been somewhat positive, but you know, there are, I think, certain things that are kind of subjective about, you know, the cold exposure and cold plunges and whatnot. You know, maybe I'm just not doing it cold enough, but I feel like, you know, 50 degrees is plenty cold for me. And I think there's one thing that is kind of weird within the cold plunge, I guess, lifestyle, is that, you know, there's like no real definitive temperature that you're supposed to go in at, or that, you know, pertains to like getting any kind of benefit from cold exposure. And some people say it's like in the 40s. Some people say it's like cold enough to shock you, but also not give you a heart attack. So, you know, I think 50 for me is fine. I'm like cold for a good amount of time afterwards. I feel, I guess, good for a good amount of time afterwards. Time frame is, you know, typically for me has gotten up to 5 minutes at 50 degrees or so. Some people say 2-3 minutes. So I guess it just kind of depends on who you are. I one time stayed in for 12 minutes. That's the longest I stayed in here, and that was after doing the workout Chad, which is 1,000 box step ups with a 40-pound pack on your back. And I just, because I think my internal heat was just higher, I was just able to just withstand the cold for a lot longer. And you know, the benefits that people like tout about, you know, cold exposure are, I think, also kind of subjective too. So the only time that I felt that the cold helped with my recovery was after doing Chad. Like, I did not feel as beat up or sore in the coming days after doing Chad. I was tired. My legs were tired for sure. I did it on a Saturday. I didn't work out until Monday. Didn't really feel sore on Sunday, but on Monday I could tell that my legs were definitely tired. But at least I wasn't sore. And on a weekly thing, like, I don't notice myself really being any less sore than I would than normal. I work out just about 5 days a week, or I try to work out 5 days a week. Sometimes I do 2 a days, not so much lately, but yeah, I don't really notice myself not being as sore. So another benefit of doing the cold plunge is that it's supposed to raise your dopamine levels 3 times. And for me personally, as somebody that has a lot of intrusive thoughts, I noticed that really like for a few hours after I'm done with the cold plunge, but it's not something that lasts for or has a huge lasting effect throughout my week, throughout my day, as much as it does like right after the cold plunge. Another thing is that people say is, helps your mental alertness. And yeah, I got to be honest with you, I don't really get that. Like I obviously I get more alert when I'm in the water because it's cold, but a couple hours later I could still get tired, and sometimes I still will need more cups of coffee, and that's just something that's pretty constant. Maybe I just like coffee. Another thing that people like, I guess, enjoy about the cold plunge is they like to do the hard thing, wake up and do the hard thing and feel like they've done something that other people can't do. But for me, when it comes to something like that, it's like after you've done the hard thing so many times, it's not really a hard thing anymore. And who cares what other people can't do? Like, if another person can't throw themselves into a cold body of water, it doesn't mean that they're like mentally weak, or they're incapable of doing something hard. They just haven't done it. And for me, doing the hard thing, like now that I've trained myself to jump in a cold a body of water, it's not that hard anymore. 50 degrees is cold, but mentally, like I haven't done this for 3 or 4 days, and I'm still able to jump in a cold body of water without really thinking twice. And this is the coldest that it's been for me. If you're somebody that needs a short goal like that, great. All more power to you. Do the cold plunge, do the hard thing. But I think that the effect of that wears out pretty quickly. I mean, at least within the first 2 weeks of doing cold plunges. But with that, I still think that I enjoy doing the cold plunge. I think there's a benefit to doing the cold plunge. And I think the number one thing is that it just makes me feel better after I do the cold plunge. And I know doing the cold plunge for me mentally is a good thing. And that's why I enjoy it. And that's why I'll continue to do it. I don't think that I really need to go any colder in terms of like the temperature or length. I've been in here for a good amount of time right now. I forgot to set my timer, but I've been in here for a good amount of time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my experience with cold plunging over the last month or so. It's something that I think is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that anybody can do it. So if you're somebody that's out there, then you're like, I don't like cold water. I don't like like, there's no way that I can get into a cold ice bath like that. Try it out. Try it out. You don't have to do it super cold. You could try it out at like I started back up at like 60 degrees after my first experience, which was 54, and I just gradually worked myself down. And 60 is bearable. And see what it does to you, see how you like it. Don't immediately write it off, but also at the same time, don't believe that it's gonna magically change your life. Like a lot of influencers on Instagram or YouTube will make you believe that doing a cold plunge will make you like Superman, make you a better person than other people. It doesn't have those benefits. Anybody can do a cold plunge. I am somebody that absolutely hates being cold, and I can do it. So if I can do it, anybody out there can do a cold plunge. And I recommend trying it out. But like I said, don't think that it is a life-changing experience.